You're listening to iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 971. I'm Josh Flanagan. I'm here with my co-host, Connor Kilpatrick.
Hello.
You all right, buddy?
Hey, Josh. I'm good. Are you okay? Josh
You
has
know,
had a day.
it's another day tomorrow.
He's had a
Welcome.
tough day. There'll be a lot of dumb jokes. Try to make him laugh. That's the goal for today.
All right, go for
It's
it.
a warning.
I say.
Warning everybody.
It's amazing how the show is like an instant mind shift. Like the light comes on and there's like, hey, welcome to iFanboy 2025. That is our 20th year of doing this show, 25th year of doing iFanboy. Good God, that every day I'm gonna do it every single week, and from now on in perpetuity.
That's fine.
I could really do a what hurts segments this week. I mean, it would be a
Hold on to that. That's later on in the show.
All right then. That
Josh
means
didn't even
that
read the
every
emails.
week.
He doesn't even know what's coming.
20, I never do. I go in cold. That's what I do. It's my move. Is it because I like that from like a performance standpoint? Sure, that's what I'll say. Every week for 25 years, one of us has picked the book that they like the best from their stack of comics, and we call that the pick of the week. We will talk about that comic book, other books that came out this week. There's a patron pick. There's listener mail. It should be a fun old time. There will be spoilers on the books where we deem it necessary to spoil them. So if you haven't read them and you're concerned, you are notified. This week you had the pick, Connor.
Boy, didn't it feel great to have 20 fewer books to read this week than last week?
I felt like I was forgetting something.
It was, like, I mean, I think I had 33 last week. I think I had 13 this week. And look, they were great. A lot of great books last week. But man, it was a much more manageable load than normal. And this week was the pick of the week was a book that I didn't even know anything about going into reading it, but I just saw the title and the creators. I gave it a shot, and it was Daredevil Cold Day in Hell #1 of 3, which they don't normally tell you ahead of time, but they did here, from Charles Soule and Steve McNiven, doing it Marvel style, old school Marvel style. We'll get into that in a second, with letters by Clayton Cowles. Did you read this? I love this. So I mean, obviously it's the pick of the week.
I didn't know anything about it, but I saw like a #1, and I just figured I'd look on it and it would be something all. And I saw Charles Soule, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I saw Steve McNiven, and I was like, "Oh, this will be a sort of a special thing."
Double size.
I still didn't have very high expectations, but I think that you actually made it the pick very early, so I knew going into it that it was going to be pretty good. And you'll get into it. But as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, that's the right call.
So I don't know if it's because when I was like 9 years old, I read The Dark Knight Returns like 300 times, but I love future stories. I love the stories of the characters in their old age, in a time in their lives and their careers where we'll never get to in the regular books because they're fighting never-ending battles for truth and justice. So, Avengers Twilight, which was maybe last year or maybe 5 years ago. I don't remember when that was. Old Man Logan.
What's his name is still the artist is still recovering because I don't know what happened to him.
But whatever that came out, Old Man Logan, all the Old Man books, old Man Hawkeye. Like I just love, taking a look at the time of these characters' lives that will never actually get to in the main books, and seeing what happens to them when they're old. Those stories are always fun for me. I love that genre.
Did one of those, right?
Maybe
he did.
He did Old Man Logan.
Yeah, because he did it with Mark Miller.
Yeah.
So so instantly, I think that was once I realized. I think when I realized what it was, and it was McNiven. All those Old Man books were fantastic. Old Man Hawkeye was one of my favorites.
Was great.
So
and those Old Man Quill or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was not.
And so I didn't even know. Look, you look at the cover and it's got his cowl and the silhouette. It's all stitched up, and then there's Matt, but I didn't look that closely. I still didn't know what it was when I turned the page to get to the first, and then you got Old Man Murdoch at a grave talking to it, and there's been some sort of war that's still going on, featuring General Barton, and at some point Matt lost his powers, and so he's just a regular old blind man now.
Several did, like several people, like Steve Rogers.
Maybe everyone. We don't know. Yeah. We haven't got a lot of information. This is essentially a 6-issue miniseries. This is the first 2 issues of a 6-issue because it's a double-sized comic.
Do you have a theory on? You have a theory on who the DBs are?
No, do you?
Doombots.
Oh,
I think it's Doombots, and there's green shit everywhere.
Well, you're right, because I mean they tend to do this when movie. Well, the movie's not coming out anytime soon. I don't know. That's a great theory, though. I thought about it for a minute, and I just thought, you know what? I'll just let them tell me. But we see Matt going about his business as an old man in the city. He goes to visit Wilson Fisk's grave, talks to
Has a chat with him.
It's a bit of exposition, tools to tell us where the world is and what's going on with him, and then give some money to someone who needs it. And then we as he's walking through the city, we get to see a little bit of things. We get to see the surveillance. We get to see the world's still at war. There's a great sequence on the Staten Island ferry as he returns, I guess, to Manhattan, and of course, Wilson Fisk would be buried in Staten Island. And there was a great sequence there where this guy wants to talk to him on the bridge of the ship. There's just a lot of great little storytelling devices to give us information without making it seem like an info dump, which I thought was really well done. We get to see something fucked up the Brooklyn Bridge. By the way, that ferry would go nowhere near that bridge, which I think Charles Soule should know that.
Needs must. Yeah, but things
it should be the Verrazano Bridge.
But there's no bridges anymore. So what they had to do is utilize what they had. So they were like, they finally bought that one. They finally bought that one from Colin Jost, and now that's
he finally made a profit.
Yeah,
maybe. Oh, that could be a good point. Maybe. Oh no, they're in Staten Island. I was going to say maybe he was in Queens and they were only way to get across now by ferry, but nope, he was in Staten Island. It says at the beginning, and so then Matt essentially gets mugged in the subway.
Helicarrier, like in the harbor, so they got to go around that, and then they come in where the Brooklyn Bridge.
It could be Matt gets mugged in the subway, basically coming out of the which is closed for forever.
I thought that was the first real strong. I was like, oh, that's a good scene, which is this isn't reinventing the wheel of the post-apocalyptic thing.
No,
but it's the sort of it's like here's what the danger of the world is. And then also, basically he goes to give somebody some money, and then they flashes the money that's in there, and they were like, give it all. And then it's there's another guy. So it's like an ambush. And then there was a really cool bit where Matt starts falling down the stairs.
Well, they push him, and he goes down the stairs.
He tries to do one of his Daredevil things, and he can't. So they say it, but they also demonstrate it that he's not the same.
He does a flip.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't get as hurt as he should, but he still falls down the stairs. But instead of bouncing down the stairs, he does a somersault and sort of misses all the stairs and hits the bottom. And they're like, well, that was pretty cool, but give us your money. But it also was a great character piece because he's still like, guys, I run a soup kitchen. Come to the soup kitchen. I'm blind. I'm never going to know who you are. So I don't even care that you robbed me. Just come get food. He's still a good guy at his heart. And then, there's an explosion. He gets thrown. There's some green radioactivity in the explosion, and suddenly his powers are back.
Very reminiscent of the ooze that gave him and the turtles their power.
And it's a good thing he kept in shape all these years. He's still thin and wiry. And so then he's running around the city with these new powers again, trying to he's taking in all the sounds. He's trying to concentrate. That he goes back to the explosion to find the most disturbing page of the week, which was Old Man Steve Rogers impaled on 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of rebar, holding up the station a la Spider-Man.
I didn't see it on the first page. I saw it in the close-up on the next page, and I went, "Oh no!" And I flipped back, and I was like, "Oh, that's horrible."
And so he's like, "Matt, get this person out of here," and he does, and then Steve basically crumbles under the weight of it and dies. It was a great sequence.
The visual way they did that was Matt listening to the heartbeat, and he's like, it's still good, it's still and then that last one flatlines, and the thing here is that I think Steve McNiven
great. It's a really great Steve McNiven issue.
It is, and one of the things that's really cool about him is that his style's changed over time. It's very different than it was when we first met him, but it's still very good. So a lot of times when somebody's art style changes over time, you're like, I kind of miss it, but it's just good. It's like Stuart Immonen in a way. It doesn't matter how he's drawing it. He's great at drawing comics.
And he's doing the colors. He's doing it all. And then in the essay in the back, Charles Soule says, A, he's been working on this story in his head for 10 or more than 10 years. But B, he decided to do it Marvel style. So,
oh, wow.
I think everyone who does Marvel work at some point wants to do a Marvel style book.
Sure.
And if you
especially if you're very busy,
somehow don't know what that is, it's how Stan and Jack did it, where the writer basically gives the plot outline to the artist, not the panel by panel breakdown, not a full
Not even
script.
page by page.
Right. Just says, here's what happens in the issue. The artist then takes that, draws the issue out, and then the writer goes in and puts the dialogue and captions in. So there's some, I mean, there's a page here with like 16 panels in it. But there's still great big action sequences. There's a terrific double page spread where finally he's back in the costume. But the guys who blew up the station steal Cap's shield and bring it back to their boss. Who was that? Was that Bullseye?
That's Bullseye. I mean, they're certainly heavily intimating that it's Bullseye. And
a really fucked up Frank Castle. Like, I just think everything about this book was awesome.
That Frank Castle was the most Garth Ennis thing I have seen in a non-Garth Ennis book in a really long. That is straight out of Preacher. He is hooked up to the wall. He's got no arms and legs. He's being kept alive artificially. He can't speak.
Yeah,
it's messed up.
And then what's really interesting was that final page spread I talked about, the full page shot of Matt back in the suit. It almost looks like a different artist. Like, the style is so different. It's not as sketchy and wavy lined as the rest of the issue. It's much more like a Mignola style, like very heavy shadows and
it's got like a Somni Mazzucchelli.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I think that's
I think this was a great issue. I'm not going to qualify it. This was a really terrific first issue. But not having any expectations and going into this totally blind.
Yeah.
Man, I love that about my weekly comics, like there's you have your stack, and I'm sure you feel this way, where you're like, okay, the pick could be one of these three. You just going by pedigree or past success or whatever. I love it when there's a book I was not even thinking about that comes out and you go, holy shit, that was great.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, #1. I don't even know if I said the title earlier. I'm sorry if I didn't. That'd be a big faux pas on my part if I did not say it this whole time. 10 minutes of talking, and they're like, what book are they talking about? So I'm excited for the rest. I mean, Charles Soule's great. We love, Charles Soule. He did a great run in Daredevil. He's no stranger to the character.
He's very, I was gonna say very varied, but like what he does is he does a lot of different things. He does those Star Wars books, and those are very by the numbers in a good way. If I can, like,
you have to be. You're in such a box.
That's what I'm saying. But so he's good at that. He's like, okay, you need me to work within these parameters, I will. And then he does his books with Ryan Brown, which are much different, And then he's had all these different runs throughout the years and done different things. And it's really cool. Like, I haven't loved all of it, but there's always, something to like. But every once in a while, he'll do a thing that you're like, oh, this guy's really, like, when you let him rip. And it's funny because he says, like, oh, I've been thinking about this for 15 years. Like,
no, it's been, I over-exaggerated since 2019, so 6 years.
Well, either way, that is only going to help a writer like this. Totally. In my way. Like, some people, like, you need to get it out. Like, Charles Soule is a really intelligent person. And so he's refining that thing. He takes that sort of writing really seriously in that way. And
if you're a process person, I mean, this issue has, like, a script page. You can't see that in the light. And it's got the breakdowns McNiven did for the pages. And, like, this is like a full on almost trade.
I mean, that's why when you said, like, they tell you it's 3, like, this is clearly designed to sell books for a long time.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about these kind of stories is they are evergreen. Marvel doesn't do in the same way DC does those kind of stories, but these are those kind of things they do. Like, you can hand someone Old Man Logan's trade. You'll be able to hand someone this trade when it comes out, assuming that they don't fall on their face, which I don't think they will.
He did break it into pages. It looks like.
Yeah, maybe, but not in panels.
Right. No, which is fine. Yeah. Page 1, page 2, and Candy. Yeah. That's
so
great.
Super awesome. If you skipped out on Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, it's honestly one of the best Daredevil books in forever.
Yeah.
And terrific Charles Soule, Steve McNiven stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
And there's a lot of strange books this week that I thought about for pick of the week. Before, I mean, honestly, this was one of the last books I read. So when I did, I was like, oh, forget all those other books. But for like a half a second, I had a thought of Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu #7, which is funny because Josh and I were texting about this comic. I was texting him panels of when I know Josh isn't reading a book and I have thoughts and I'm not sure I'm going to talk about it on the show. I sometimes will text them to Josh. So in this book, Moon Knight's got his little cadre of people. He's got 8-Ball and he's got a couple of vampires. He's got Tigra, his girlfriend. There's been some tension because Tiger used to date Hank Pym and had a kid with him.
I don't remember that at all.
I didn't know that at all. This is what I found in this Moon Knight book.
Huh.
But he died.
Tiger, the kid.
No, Hank Pym.
Oh, so there's a kid out there who's like a
Yeah.
Tiger Pym lad?
Yes.
And that's
book.
Canon.
In this book. He's in the book.
Crazy. Wait, so how old is Tigra?
It doesn't matter. We'll get to that in a second. So, the whole thing is that Moon Knight knew Hank was alive, but he didn't tell Tigra that, which is a faux pas. You should probably tell your girlfriend.
So Moon Knight's dating a single mother?
He's dating a single mom. Yeah, that's okay. Single mom's gonna be sexy.
Listen,
Josh.
I mean,
you know what? Very sexy.
There was no way. You know what? When I think of a single mom, I think of my mom, and so I don't want to have that conversation.
You're protective. You're like, no dating.
Like you can be. Kids don't need to know about it, and I'm the kid of one, so they're all the single moms.
Well, her kids likes Moon Knight or likes Mark Spector anyway,
right?
Which is weird.
At least some version of him.
Little nuts. Nadia Van Dyne's in this issue. I keep forgetting there's a daughter now, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
And they need to get Hank Pym back for various Marvel sciencey goopy reasons, and so they
wait. So Hank Pym has like children. He's got like illegitimate children.
He's the Elon Musk of Marvel. And so they need Hank Pym to because he's the smartest guy. They need him to make this antidote to this drug. It's just a reason to get him back. And so they figure, because he's got off to the quantum realm, they figure if they menace his daughter Nadia, then he will come back. And so that's what happens. They go and they pretend one of them pretends to be Deadpool. They make up fake villain names and they all attack her. And then Hank Pym does show up to save his daughter. And the reason why I texted Josh is because he has aged quite a bit. He has gray hair. He has a craggly face. They've just decided to
welcome to the club.
Get rid of just remove Hank from the equation of heroes, and make him an elder. They basically made him Michael Douglas. And so he explains it by the process of being resurrected. Whatever aged him and whatever. I don't know. I didn't even know he died. It was they. I don't know. But anyway, Hank Pym is back in this issue. Tigra has some very sweet moments with him, which if you're Moon Knight, you shouldn't feel great about, but also you kind of deserve it because you didn't tell her that her ex was still alive.
I mean, it's fair.
There's even a sequence where she's hugging him and Moon Knight's in the background going, "What the fuck?" So you can see even the insert, he's not happy about it. But listen, buddy, you didn't tell her. That's her baby daddy. So I actually really like this. This book can be really weird, but this was kind of like a one-shot story within this longer arc, and I really liked it. I like Hank Pym. Right?
I feel like I haven't seen him in a long time.
Right, but we like him conceptually. Not the bad Hank Pym behavior, obviously, but the character's good. I have
a feeling of liking him and wanting to, but at the same time, I also had this feeling of like, Jesus, I don't know if I even remember anymore because he's been so scattershot over the years. And he's one of those characters that unless he's in the, I don't know, like the damaged goods, the fallen sun kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know that his personality's been all that consistent. Which is why, I mean, it's very clear, like, you know, the MCU one's got to be Scott Lang because you can't have that other character, and they you know,
which is too bad. But anyway, we've had a conversation. So if you're a Hank Pym fan and you haven't seen him for a while, and you didn't read Moon Knight, check it out. Moon Knight: Fist of Khonshu #7. And if you're a Superman fan or absolute comics fan, hold on tight. We'll be back after this. Absolute Superman #6 from Jason Aaron, and hey, Carmine Di Giandomenico, one of our favorites.
Di Giandomenico. I practiced.
I wish he's been doing this whole series. No knock on Rafa Sandoval.
Well, I was like, this isn't Sandoval, but this is really good. Flips back to the beginning.
Oh. Di Giandomenico.
Di Giandomenico.
He's one of the good ones. So that's a joke.
Never trust an Italian artist what's made of gas.
I I have to say I was wrong and you were right. When we talked about issue 5, he was going back to Smallville. You were saying he was going home, and I was saying no, he's never been there. You were right. I was wrong. This is a flashback to his origin on Earth, where he lands. But apparently grows. I didn't realize they were growing him like a weed in the ship. Like he was a kid,
Uh-huh.
and after 8 months, he's now a teenager. I don't know how that works. 17 months, he was fully grown. He was cooked in there. But this was like him landing in Smallville with the Kents, and figuring out language and helping them on the farm, like the classic Superman stuff, but through the lens of absolutes. And but then, of course, someone calls immigration on him, and Lazarus shows up. Lazarus is, of course, taking over the whole county, buying up all the farms, making a big mega farm. And but the Kents will hold out. They're the holdout farm. And then there's a big reveal that Lazarus. This is one of those reveals where I just go, "You're an idiot." Like, you're an idiot. The Lazarus Corp is being run by Ra's al Ghul. Of course it is. It's the fucking Lazarus Corp. I turned the last page. I was like, "Oh, right. Fuck, you, an idiot." Not Jason Aaron, me. So I thought this was a great issue. This was another great issue. And when I read it at the time, I hadn't read any Marvel books yet. I'd read all my indies and all my DCs. So I was like, this is the pick of the week right now. Again, I think this book is getting better and better as it goes.
I mean,
and the art was terrific.
And we'd sort of talked about it with the idea that, like, this is a Superman who hasn't been coddled, and like they just like that, like spending all that time in space alone. Like I was like, oh, they put him in the sleep or whatever, and it was like, no, he was in there alone, present. And I just like, God, that's
stuck
terrible.
In that little pod for 17 months of being aware of it, eating protein slurry. Also, he lands, and he'd come from a working farming family, and now he's with the Kents, who are trying desperately to save this farm of theirs, and seeing all the stuff that Lazarus is doing to them, including using their drones to keep the weather away from their farm. And that sort of builds up his attitude that we see in the first 5 issues of him running around, A, fucking with the Lazarus Corp, but B, helping out, sort of like the farming people of the world. And so I think it's coming together in a different way than the other absolute books. And as each piece clicks into place, you're like, oh. So I think this has been very good.
It keeps going in that direction. I think they're very slowly building up to where everything that you saw at the beginning that was so mysterious, like, completely makes sense why he is this way. All the leadership on Krypton treated him this way. All the, people on Earth are treating his other parents this way. And it's just, it's so sad.
And he's a teenager when he arrives on Earth. So he's already like prone to being surly and anti-authoritarian and angry. So it's not like he was raised as a baby by the Kents. He was already formed as a being. And all he had was his assumptions about life reaffirmed by things on Earth are no different than things on Krypton. The powerful people are putting their boot heels on the weaker people, and he's fed up. And this has been great. It's been really great.
No, absolutely.
So I didn't get to talk about the Flash with you guys last time, but the final of the already announced absolute.
Did you like the Flash?
I thought the Flash was okay.
That's fair.
I thought the art was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the story was okay.
Yeah.
But this is the last of the announced 6 absolutes. Absolute Green Lantern #1. So we've had Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, and now Green Lantern. Story by Al Ewing, art by John Noe Lindsay, Lucas Gattoni on letters. Before I say anything, I want to know what you think about this comic.
I thought it was better than I expected. I wasn't going to read it, and it turned out I had so few books, and you sort of put it on there. I was like, I should read as many of these as I can because I have time.
Well, the thing is, like, they're really big in comics right now. Like, when I was in San Francisco a few weeks ago, I was at Isotope Comics talking to James, the proprietor there, and he was like, absolutes are like bringing people in, like by absolutes and ultimate books are bringing people in like crazy. So they're big.
And that's fine. I just have like,
just good to know what's happening.
Yes, but also I just kind of like, I'm not an Al Ewing fan. And it's not even I think he's bad. I just think that as all of his stories, as they go on, the longer I hang on with them, the more they go somewhere that I'm not interested in. But he's a talented person. Obviously, he's getting all this work, and these stories are interesting. His setups are great. And the sort of, like the idea with all this is like how much you can make it different than what is familiar. And we talked about this a little with some of the other stuff, with like some of the Tom Taylor stuff, is that so many of these otherworld ones, can be this thing where they are showing you all these things that you recognize, but it's a different world, but it's kind of the same. Whereas the concept of this is these people grew up in a different world with different shit happening around them, and this is how it's different and it's harder. And it's a good concept, and I think it's being executed really well. While this is one where I can't quite tell because we haven't spent enough time with the character. This is maybe one of the first one. Actually, Martian Manhunter was like this, where you don't necessarily see the Hal Jordan yet in this. I guess Superman was a little like that too. But Wonder Woman, that's Wonder Woman, or Batman, there's Batman. This one we're gonna have to wait a little while. I also thought I wasn't gonna be a Hal Jordan story. That's just gonna be all these other people. But it's everybody. So there's a Guy Gardner. I guess he's sheriff. I don't know. I'm curious.
I thought this was awful.
Yeah,
this was terrible. This was by far my least favorite of the absolutes.
Huh.
Number one, to a certain extent, all of the absolutes have had top tier art. You could quibble on Superman, but everyone else, I thought this art was terrible. That was really, really, really bad. And then number two, I'm a big Hal Jordan fan. I grew up reading Bronze Age comics. I love the Satellite era. Those were my DC characters when in the 90s, when everybody was all about Wally and Kyle and Connor. I was all about Hal and Barry and Ollie. It really made me angry that every other absolute book is about Superman's about Cal, Batman's about Bruce, Wonder Woman's about Diana, Flash is about Wally, Martian Manhunter's about John. Hal's the villain here, and the Green Lantern's Joe from Far Spectre or whatever that book was that we didn't like. Hal's the Black Hand. He's the villain. It's the continued disrespect for Hal Jordan that I hate. It makes me really angry. And I never joined Heat, but spiritually we were all the same. So I hated that. All the other characters got to be the stars of their books, but this one, he's the bad guy, and I really hated that.
We don't know that it stays that way, though.
He's the Black Hand. That's a Green Lantern villain. The title of the story is the Black Hand. He's got the Black Hand's powers. And Joe from the new Green Lantern. She's the Green Lantern in this comic. So
I mean, she's on the cover. You make a good point, but
there were concepts I liked. I liked the whole idea of this giant ship or battery falling down onto their city and destroying things. And I liked
a great shot.
I kind of like the idea, although it's very similar to what's happening in Absolute Batman, that all of the characters are friends. So it's like Hal's having lunch with John Stewart and Joe. I can never remember her last name, and they didn't say it in the comic. And Guy Gardner,
the one with the glasses.
She's the one with the triangle hair that was far off that book we didn't like, and now she's back in the regular. And then Guy's someone they know, like it's the same concept as Batman, where he knows all the villains, but it's fine. I liked that setup, but I hated everything else about it. So
I think I understand what you're saying, and I think that if I thought about it like that, I was even thinking about, I thought, oh, he's going through some shit and then he'll be the hero. But, you're right. She's on the cover. So who knows? I do think, the setup, the structure, the pacing, I thought that was all pretty good. It's interesting. If I take out the, if I'm worrying about Hal Jordan or from whatever, it was intriguing, I think. And it wasn't weird. I mean, it was weird, but it was like, okay, this is straight enough storytelling. It's not trying too hard to impress me and therefore getting lost, I guess. I feel very bad for Hal Jordan.
Who was the writer on the Constantine book that we just couldn't finish?
Spurrier.
Cy
Spurrier. Yeah.
They're both English. Al Ewing is English.
Mm-hmm.
They both kind of have a very simplistic take on small town America.
Mm.
There's a lot of small town America stereotypes in this one too.
Yeah.
And it's like they only get it from movies or whatever, but which is fine. They don't live here, but just the whole scene in the diner was just like, this is terrible.
That's fair.
But I wanted to check it out because I think these are important books for the market right now, important for the industry, and I won't be continuing this one, but I'll be reading the rest of them. I'll be reading 5 out of 6. Flash for now. Flash wasn't great, but there were things about it that I thought were interesting.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it was
it was a little confusing, but I bought into it enough that I thought it was all right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take another quick break. We'll be back with more comics right after this. Let's talk about Pastime #1 from Mad Cave Studios. Joe Harris, Russell Olson, Carlos Mangual. Did you read this? I sent this over to you.
Yeah, again, I saw you put it on the list, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you sent me this." So I bashed it out real quick. So I did read it, but I will tell you that, like, I know why you just, it's a baseball story, but when I'd seen it when like looking to make my list, and I was like, I don't want to read that, but I saw you did, so I read it.
Well, I wasn't going to initially. It's very clearly a vampire comic from the cover, even from the main cover. You can see the pointed like stake edges of the title of the logo, and then there's the bloody ball, and there's sort of blood spatter. But I thought the idea of a vampire baseball player was in like the 30s or the 20s was interesting. Someone who couldn't play at night or couldn't be around during the day. So what do you do? Because back then they didn't have lights. So I thought that was interesting enough. I did like a lot about this. I thought the art from Russell Olson was pretty good. Pretty high quality for these kind of studios, which don't tend to have high quality stuff.
This is interesting because I knew there was a horror element to it, like, but that's kind of all I put in. Like at the end, I go, "Oh, it's a vampire," but I do feel like if I had sort of, I mean, it's very obvious, but I just started to read it really without thinking about it too much, and I feel like a lot of my confusion was that I wasn't really thinking it was a vampire. I thought it was going to be like a serial killer. I don't know.
Right.
But now that I'm like, oh, that's all vampire. Now it makes sense. But like, so it's interesting though, because you kind of have to know at the beginning it's a vampire, or
it's confusing.
Because I was kind of lost. I don't know if that's, I was just, I'm a little bit stupid. I don't know, whatever it is. Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I mean, this is fine. I didn't think this was great. I thought it was interesting.
Joe Harris was like he was a pro for, but he did like Marvel stuff for quite a while. I remember, and DC. He was definitely.
And look, I'm a big baseball guy, so I got a couple of thoughts on the baseball portrayed in this comic. Number one, it's time to bring back the top hatted umpires. This needs to come back. We need to bring
that was
back
a thing.
I'm sure it was.
I thought that was like a Undertaker joke or something.
Definitely do it. So I thought the art, other than one panel, was a pretty good portrayal of baseball action.
Mm-hmm.
However, I need to talk about this first sequence where the batter is supposed to bunt. He bunts the worst bunt in the history of bunts, which is basically just a ground ball to third. And then this is not a great drawing, but that's the only one I thought was bad for the baseball.
I was actually literally just got to that before you showed it, and I was like, that's not a follow through.
No, it's not a great drawing, but the rest of it I thought was good. So the batter runs to first. He makes it, runs through first base, and then has to slide back safe. This is not a thing in baseball. You can run through the bag, and unless you make a concerted move to second, you don't have to come back to the base and be safe. Like, this is not.
Oh, right.
Like I don't understand what's happening here, and I feel like anyone who's watched baseball would know this is wrong. I think an editor would know that's wrong. I think that's the editor's job. I don't even know if there's no editors at Mad Cave or not. That aside, I thought the rest of the baseball stuff was good. I thought the art was really good. There was some great exaggeration on like balls and bats being swung. I thought all that was good. I thought there was some confusing elements to the storytelling.
There was definitely that.
Who the vampire was, who the vampire wasn't. there was some jumps in storytelling that I thought were confusing.
Yeah, that was where I was getting it. It was like I understood the scenes that were going on, and I got the basic idea, like, hey, there's this really great player, but he's mysterious, and they're playing baseball at night now. But there's barnstormers, but it didn't quite hold together as a thing. It might later.
I don't know that I'm going to read anymore though. It was interesting enough, but unless I hear more great things about it, I might just pass. But I'm glad I read it. I like taking a flyer on new things. I didn't think it was terrible.
I mean, it's certainly going to fit in with a couple of niches. I mean, you're talking about somewhere out there's a guy's like, I do love old baseball stories and I love vampires. Like, it's going to be great for them, probably.
If you tell me there's more top-hatted umpires throughout the series, I might check it out.
All right.
We need to get to our West Coast Avengers number 6. This is like our weird X that we keep going back to, but we shouldn't, but we do. And I'm never happy when it's over, but then like the next one comes out, I'm like, yeah, we'll go out again. Like I think I hate the book.
It's Janice.
I think I hate it. It is Janice. This is the Janice of comics.
This is
I think
Janice
I hate
comics. All right, I'm trying.
I keep reading it, and this is no disrespect to Jerry Duggan, whose books we love, but man, you're right. This is the Janice of comics.
I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd, and this one again, I'm not going to tell you I'm going to quit it, but this one really went over the edge with me. I was like, why are the Avengers fighting? Like, I get it. That's the rule. That's what they do. But I was like, I don't buy this.
Why is Tony siding with the bad guys? I still don't buy him siding with Ultron being on the team. Like,
I mean, I think that part has been fairly well, like it has a lot to do with Tony's personality. Jerry Duggan spent all that time with Tony Stark in a great series. And that makes sense to me. And I think that's the thing about him, is that it's frustrating because you're like, God, this guy does shit that's irritating. And confronting him is fine. And I think that Duggan, like, it's the thing where all the Avengers show up in the air and like they're not gonna fight. There's no reason, and like it all.
Also, Tony's on the Avengers. This is like in the old days when
Batman he was offended by it. He was like
when Batman was on the Justice League and also on the Outsiders. And then he'd be like, oh, in the Outsiders book, he'd be like, oh, no one likes me over there. And then it doesn't translate to the other book. And that's fine. But then you're just like, at one point, he's like, when I'm with you guys in a different set of armor, which they never, talk about, I'm part of the leadership. But over here, I get no respect. I'm like, this is like really stretching credulity here. But I thought every single point the Avengers made was a good one. And I thought every single point the West Coast Avengers made was a bad one. And then this fucking idiot Wonder Man calling himself Wonder Man, thinking he can take on Storm, which he couldn't.
At some point, at some point, somebody called him Wonder Man, and I went, wait a minute. That last issue ended with Wonder Man coming, and I was like pissed off.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what I was supposed to read, and then they sort of tease it at the very end.
Well, the very end, he shows up. And you know what? You know what's going to happen? I'm going to fucking read it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I want to see what happens with Wonder Man. This is the Janice of comics. You are 100% correct.
I'm going to tell you what I did like.
Okay.
Really, really liked the failsafe.
Wasp?
Yeah. I liked
that. Was terrific. That was great.
We have everything about that concept, execution, how she acted, how Ultron reacted. It was all great. Like Tony fucked it up. Because he thinks he knows everything and he makes all the decisions, and that's his hubris. And that's good stuff. That's, I can't argue with it. Like, he's making choices that seem really bad and they annoy everybody else. That's been his role.
I love Janet. She's a great character. I love that she's sort of half in and half out of the life. Right. The failsafe is he'll zap her in from wherever she is. In this point, she's at like a fashion show. And then, she has like this special gun and she shoots him and then goes back. I just thought that was awesome. And she's like, yeah, I got to get back to the fashion show. It's way more fun than this bullshit. And I just think she's a great character. It's just that everything about this, this book doesn't quite work.
Look at us justifying this. Look at it. I'll go out with her one more time.
Exactly. I'm telling you, this is the X you keep going back to.
She's a nice girl. She's trying.
Wonder Man's in the jacket.
Gotta tell you,
tell me I'm not going to read that next issue.
That is a tough panel to drop on. That's not even possible.
There's no way I'm going to drop.
You're telling these two middle-aged men who grew up on Wonder Man, who is both excellent and silly in a way that most heroes aren't. Like you can't. I can't tell you why I love him and know it's stupid, and those two do not intersect. He's not a human, but he is. Does he have? I don't know. Is he ionic? I don't remember. But he wears the jacket. It doesn't matter. But
I'm wearing a 70s Hollywood safari jacket.
I have to know.
Also,
I have to know.
I put the iPad too close to the camera. Now my whole camera's red.
Yeah.
In case anybody's wondering what happened.
That's weird that happens. That's not supposed to happen.
It adjusted for the color. Anyway, I can't quit you. I can't quit you, West Coast Avengers. I don't know why.
We'll be here to talk about it. Listen, we're going to talk about it next issue.
We're 100% going to talk about the next issue.
100% going to.
I remember it's mostly going to be the same conversation. But again, what else does two men in their 40s do?
It's not.
Try to figure out.
It's not going to make me happy.
No, it's nothing fair.
But it's going to reel me in. Exactly. That's what's happening. I'm not going to be happy, but I'm going to be there.
All right. You do this next part.
Okay, fine. Hey, this is a listener-supported enterprise that we have going on here. You can do that many different ways, or viewer. They are viewers.
There's also listeners.
They're listeners and viewers. Yeah,
some are both.
Watchers. Watchers seems worse than listeners.
Oh, like, watchers feels like someone is looking through my.
That guy's a watcher. Yeah, if someone's listening, whatever. It's fine.
I don't want that at all. And quite frankly, they don't want that. They might think they want that, but they don't want that.
You can directly support this show at patreon.com/iFanboy, and you can become part of our great community on Discord and Facebook. Vote on the Patron Pick, get a patron power live on the show. The Patron Discord's like a very tiny Reddit that has been very specifically curated with nice people.
And it's still good.
Yeah.
Like there's no jerks there.
You have to pay to get in.
Well, you do have to pay to get in, but
That's
like
true.
You know, remember on iFanboy when we really leveled up in the first couple of years and the audience got way bigger and suddenly there was a lot of jerks hanging around because that's what happens when you have a lot of people. Right now it's a curated VIP section. It's like the VIP.
It's nice
section of the iFan base is the Discord server.
So you sign up for Patreon. You get to vote on the patron pick. You get a patron power live on the show. You can join the monthly patron hangout at $10 or higher. You'll get an ad-free version of this show, which you're listening to. Plus, the show will show up. The show will show up a day early on Saturday. So you know, membership has its privileges. And there's access to the iFanboy after show on Sundays where we talk about all the books that didn't make this show's rundown. There will be a discount if you sign up for 1 full year at a time, and you can send or receive gift memberships at patreon.com/iFanboy/gift for that. Thank you so much to everybody who has been doing that. iFanboy.threadless.com, our merch store, where we have 22 designs on t-shirts and more. 22. There are 2 more. That happened.
Woohoo! New shirts.
There we go.
They're live in the store. You can see them on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. But we added the 2 new 2025 logos to shirts, and you may be thinking, hey, you could have released these months ago. Yeah, we could have.
It's true.
We decided to space them out, but also we did some tests and we didn't like the colors, so we had to tweak it. These are all the things you don't see behind the scenes. But they're ready to go. The iFanboy 2025 logo and the Superman, the movie style 3D. Bombastic title, which we like, on shirts. So you can check those out at iFanboy.threadless.com. I'll be ordering some. I'll be ordering them.
Are you wearing one right now?
No, I'm wearing my Fun Wabus shirt.
Well, that's fair. iFanboy.com/support as a direct PayPal link if you just want to do it that way. iFanboy.com/Amazon is a general shopping link. It's an affiliate account. If you want to buy stuff and you go through that, it helps us out. Costs you nothing. Bookshop.org is a online aggregator of independent bookstores. So if you want to order books, you can do it from them. And we will put those links on the website where we can and should.
Back to it?
Back to it. With no words.
G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, Beachhead #1. They're doing a whole bunch of silent issues. I don't know why. Is it the anniversary?
It isn't. I read through it and I saw it's not like an even number. I don't.
Well, whatever. They're doing a bunch of silent issues because G.I. Joe 21. That wasn't the first silent comic, was it?
No, but it was like
the most famous.
I mean, I think it was a thing, like the story goes that G.I. Joe 21, the famous silent issue, is because they had like 2 weeks to do a comic. And so they said, all right, here's what we can do. We don't want to do any lettering. That adds a week. And so they did this thing, and it, like, I think it was like a groundswell kind of thing. Like, people, like, it really made an impact on people in a way that they didn't expect it to. And we're still talking about it.
We'll be talking about it in the after. So there's the first issue, Phil Hester, one of our favorites from, by the way, that cover is one of the best Phil Hester drawings I've seen in a long time. I'm usually very good about recognizing artists. I did not recognize that as Phil Hester. I even looked through the issue like, who did the cover?
He's so good, and he is an underrated talent of the highest order.
And I would say that's a description of Beachhead as well. So this is story art by Phil Hester, inks by Travis Heimel, colors by Little Ridge, no letterer because there's no words or there's no anything, right? There's no sound effects.
Nope.
And so this is, the story of Beachhead. He's, I guess, on a Cobra helicopter. He crashes, and he has to survive. It's very much like that episode of Band of Brothers where,
Moose.
Moose gets
not
behind.
Moose. Buck. No. Moose. No, it isn't. Moose was a commander. Buck Compton was a corporal. It's the guy who looks like a heavy version of me.
Which is really sad because we know these characters backwards and forwards.
It's been a while, but and I can never remember that character's name. But
we're gonna feel stupid. We're gonna feel dumb. I'm looking it up because we can't let this stand.
But he is there in Holland, and he gets left behind in the unit, and he wakes up in sort of like a farmhouse. Bull Randleman, Sergeant Randleman.
He became an earth mover in Arkansas.
You can see why I said moose.
Yes,
it's another. What's the?
He could have been squirrel.
No, it's not. It's an ungulate. It's like the moose.
So it's like that episode where Beachhead has to survive. Cobra's gunning for him, and he gets rescued by this mother and her son, and he's got to keep them all alive from the Cobra attacks, and they're in some terrible situation where they've got to barter for food. So she tries to barter with some of the Cobra equipment, which alerts the Cobra that they're there. It's an issue of survival, and there's just some terrific Phil Hester art. I mean, we love this guy, but man, there's some great stuff in here, and I thought this was really fun. This was an early. Could this be the pick of the week thought in my head when I read it because it was really fun.
Yeah. And by the way, just I don't know how many years ago it was now, probably more than I think. Pre-pandemic, that's what exists. I had him on the Talksplode, and amazing story. This guy, the fact that he's still sort of working in comics in a place was really hard. It's hard to make a living in comics, and he's just putting out. I feel like this is artist kind of art
for sure.
You know what I mean? Like he's not. I don't think he's like a big fan favorite or anything. But I think he
did Green Arrow for a long time.
Yeah, it was a really long time ago, and it's not like they put him on a big book or something like that. It's one of those ones like if you know, and it kind of flies under the radar, which is a bummer. But like,
what's crazy is every time we see him on a book, we're like, why isn't this guy working right now?
I don't understand.
He's as good as there's so much bad art in mainstream comics, and the fact that this guy's not working is crazy.
He's like. More. There's Emin in here. There's Chris Somney. He probably influenced Chris Somney, quite honestly. It's just fantastic.
So this is the first of 5 issues they're doing, which is the end of it says leading up to issue 316. Why didn't you wait 4 months and do it leading up to 321? I don't understand, but anyway.
I think they do it every no, it's true. And it was in 1983, so it's not like an anniversary year or anything. So whatever.
Anyway, it was super fun.
Whatever. You're going to do a bunch of Silent G.I. Joe issues in celebration of one of the greatest comic book issues ever. Great. That's a good idea. Do it. I'll buy it.
So those were the books we wanted to talk about, but at patreon.com/iFanboy, every patron gets a vote to add a book to the rundown this week. The overwhelming favorite was 2000 AD Prog 2426. So fucking weird over there. Published by Rebellion Developments, but also through Titan Comics here in America. Featuring 5 stories. There's 4 creative teams listed on the screen, but one team did 2 stories. Also, I didn't have room for 5. This has been threatened for a long time by the patrons to pick this book. There's one super fan who reads every issue, and he's always like, guys, let's pick 2000 AD. And they always talk about it, but it never happens. So finally it happened. And they're threatening Josh to do it every week.
That's we would veto that.
The power is going to their heads, so we would probably have to veto it.
That's contrary to the spirit of.
Or we'd kill the bit. We'd kill the segment. So, 2000 AD is a weekly comic, Josh, out of the UK that's been going on for 4,000 years, or 2,426 weeks.
2,426 progs.
What the fuck is a prog? How many weeks?
You know when you're in prison and there's a guy.
How long? That's Prague.
I know.
How long is 2,426 weeks? That's
a lot of weeks.
That is 46 years?
Yeah, that's right. It started in
and
the late
46 and a half years.
Yeah, it started in the late 70s. I mean, that makes sense.
Obviously, the home of Judge Dredd.
There's a not really good, but there's a great documentary on 2000 AD. I watched it on Amazon a little while back, but it's I mean, if you can find it out there, it is worth the watch if you're a comic book lover.
So the Judge Dredd story was in the middle. So there's a Judge Dredd story that's in the middle of the story. Then there was a Chimsky's Law story, which continued the Judge Dredd story, but from a different perspective. Then there was like the final chapter of Portals and Black Goo, and then there was
the first story is Dredd.
That's what I'm saying. There's a Judge Dredd story,
right?
And then there was a continuation of the story, but through a different character's point of view for Chimsky's Law. And then it was Portals and Black Goo, which I believe was the final chapter. And then there was two, I guess, one shots: The Fall of Dead World and New Earth War Tales. What did you think of this comic?
For some reason, and this is going to make me sound very ignorant, I thought it was going to be in black and white because I was like, they don't have time because they're doing it, which is stupid. I don't know why. So here's my overall take on it is that for a book that is weekly, it is produced at a very high level. I thought the art through this whole thing was really strong. A lot of times, like I've heard this sort of described as a place where people get started, but the art through this whole thing, I was like, oh, these are all ready for it. And also, I think it's pretty clear that a lot of my favorite artists have come from this. Like a lot of the British people who are maybe our age, a little older. If I think of like, obviously
who was I thinking of?
Kev Walker comes from here. PJ Holden did the first two bits of this and he's fantastic. It's like it's wonderful. There's this way of doing things that is really exciting and dynamic, but a little cartoony. That I mean, that's what when I was the biggest Vertigo fan, it's because they just took all of the guys from 2000 AD, and this is still done with that style. Gary Brown, who's doing the book with Jerry Duggan, the Samurai and the Cowboy, he's a 2000 AD person. All those guys that you've seen in the 90s and 2000s that you saw Garth Ennis work with, those are all 2000 AD guys. So I mean, my main thing was just like, man, the art in this whole thing is fantastic. I kind of didn't love the one, but it wasn't bad.
Especially I really love the Judge Dredd art.
Yes,
the PJ Holden art. I'm struggling to think who I'm thinking of. It's not Kev Walker. It's one of those guys I've seen with Garth Ennis. I don't know, but it's definitely one of those.
Mascara?
Maybe, yeah.
He's one of the prime Dredd artists.
I just found myself less interested as the issue went along, and I just wanted to read the Judge Dredd story. And I get that he's like the main draw, but
I also think that I mean the Dredd story here is the beginning of one, so it's a little easier to get started. So when I get to the Portals and Goo, like I just was like, let's just get through this. Whether it was good or not, I didn't know because I just didn't have any context for what it was at all.
I think I happened to do that when I started skimming it. I was like, I don't really like this or understand, so I'll skim this. And then the next one was about a judge who was captured and being tortured. And then there's like a corrupt judge. Or that was a flashback to when he was a kid.
He became.
He met a corrupt judge and he worked for him for a while, and then he killed him. And that's actually a good story. I like that.
It was a good story. Yep,
that was very good. The New Earth War Tales one I struggled to get through.
I didn't get it.
I just wasn't interested in it that much.
The art, Colin McNeil, great art. Again, this all looks a lot like the Phil Hester book we just talked about. Like he draws in that style.
That story is a lot of like people in the similar outfits shooting at each other from long distances.
Yeah, I got a little.
Wait, who is that again? And wait, which one are you? And
the sort of reveal at the end, I had to really work on, and I still don't
Yeah.
know if I understand it. It
have
looks.
have you read 2000 AD before?
I don't think I've actually read an issue of it. This comes up a lot, like, why don't you? And I was like, 50 pages extra a week. I don't have that kind of bandwidth. like if any of these are really good, I would be very happy to read them later in collected form in some way. But like, really, I can't fit in 50 pages a week more. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Which I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
tough.
look, there's his Kara's name on one of the signs on the cover.
So I'm glad they picked it.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have read it.
It was not.
I really liked a lot of it. I guess I liked 3 out of the 5 stories quite a bit. And one was fine. The other one was 2 of them were kind of So that's fine. I don't expect to read a comic and that's like this as different stories and like them all. I'm happy if I do.
And it wasn't, and it also wasn't even like the ones that I didn't like. I was like, oh, this is terrible. It wasn't that. That's a different thing. One of them was the end of a story that made no sense to me.
Right.
And one of them,
it's different than jumping into a book where the characters. It's like different than jumping into like an Iron Man book where you don't know what's going on, as opposed to these. I don't know who any of these people and I have no context for it.
Well, I think that the thing is, this is one of those things. I think it's more like an old style comic where you can jump in at any point. There's going to be a story where you can jump on and you'll catch up with the other ones, and one will end if you keep going. It's awesome. I like it.
I like the chimp story quite a bit.
Yeah, I really like that it was a completely different take on the same thing in the same time, and the reveal of who the villain, quote unquote, was, I thought was like, well, I didn't expect that. It was really like I was very taken aback with a sort of choice that didn't make it just didn't see coming. What's funny is that at the end there's an ad that says, like, you can get 2000 AD delivered to your house every week, and I was like, I'd do that. If I could get it delivered in paper to my house every week, I would do that. But it's a UK only, and so it doesn't really work. I don't know. There was something about it. Like, I think this would be fun to have that sort of show up.
But you would never read it.
Just in a different sort of, just put it in a different place. Like, maybe it's not part of the
show.
Yeah.
Ratings on 2000 AD Prog. 24.
All right, let's here's what I'm just going to give you you do whatever you want it.
Yeah.
My rating is going to be from the standpoint of, I have picked up a random issue of this thing. If I didn't know anything about it, I had no expectations, what would I think of it? I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Wow, I was going to go 3.75, but
I was just putting in the middle. Like, I really like.
Well, the middle's 2.5.
I really
like the middle's 2.5.
I really like 65% of it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's fine. I'll go 3.6.
Okay.
Sticking with it. No.
I do have the next issue.
That's true. You do have it.
Yeah. So I might read it. I like, but like, I won't.
Josh is already going back on it. He's going to read every issue now.
I won't keep up with it. I can't. Maybe
this is not an invitation to make the next issue of the Patron Pick. We will shut this thing down.
Yeah.
We will shut down this segment.
I would say that if, like, a thing is, if you guys are like, oh, this thing's going to happen, and it'd be a really interesting one to think, fine, do that.
We will burn this place to the ground. And then would you have read this if not the Patron Pick? No,
but I have actually.
You've been talking about it for a while.
I've almost read it a lot. Like, I recognize the fact that this being a blind spot for me is a little embarrassing.
Well, it's a weekly anthology book out of England that's difficult, digitally you get it, but it's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's embarrassing.
I think I recognize, though, that if we're talking about the kinds of work that is being done in comics, that there's probably a lot of work that I would like in this.
Sure, for sure. And so, we answered the questions. All right,
I've never said I'm not reading it because, like, oh, I wouldn't like that. That sucks. It's just like, that's a whole thing. I gotta, like, there's so many things. It's a whole other thing.
Patreon.com/iFanboy
for theater. Well, you have stuff on your shirt. But.
Crew, you're dressed for theater crew.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron votes out a book of the rundown. Thanks for voting. But if you give the $5 or higher level, you get your patron power live on the show, like Rufus Pentecost.
Good name.
Rufus. So
that can't be real.
Rufus Pentecost is the ultimate airbander, meaning he can play every instrument in an airband style exactly as it's played on a song. Like when he's playing air guitar, he's hitting all the chords, notes. When he's playing air drums, he's hitting it exactly as you should be hitting it for the song, for the bass, whatever's being played, whether he's heard the song for the first time or hasn't heard the song in 25 years, he might as well be playing the song, but he's miming it. He's the ultimate. Oh, also, he can sing exactly like the singer, but only if he's singing along to the song. Like if you turn the music off, his real voice would return. He would.
It is much easier to do that.
But he sounds exactly like.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it.
Like the singer.
So okay, here are my questions.
Yeah.
Does he have any musical ability outside of the air?
No, but
he doesn't know how to do. So it's
only if he's doing it along to the music.
Right.
He's air doing it.
Can he translate that? So like, say for example, right?
You said you would have put him in a backup band for somebody?
No, Rufus is sitting there, right? And a song comes on and he's going like this, wheedly wheedly. And and there's a person there, and the guy's like, wait, so how do you play that? Could he explain it? Oh, that's a G. He can't.
It's just inherent. He just knows the moves.
But what he's doing, like he's forming the chords, he's doing the whatever.
He's hitting the hi-hat.
The hi-hat's not up here.
I didn't say it was. I just said he's hitting it.
You said you sit in the hi-hat and you reach.
I had my arms up so they'd be in camera.
That's fine.
He's hitting the hi-hat.
The hi-hat is actually poorly named in that sense because it really has to be at a sort of basic level. I don't know if other musicians do this, but I air everything. Like I was playing guitar, air guitar. And it's not like I'm like I'm forming. I do that, and now that I'm learning drums, I'm doing that constantly, and I would like it to stop. To be completely honest with you,
you're like Rufus is a supervillain.
Yeah.
So there you go, Rufus. You can masterfully air along to any song in any instrument.
So he's doing the thing right. If you were to slide a guitar into place,
he's just like .
Could he still do like it's if it's
a kryptonite? It's a kryptonite.
Okay. Wow, I like that. The actual instrument takes away. Okay.
So there you go. Thanks for being a patron, Rufus.
Theoretically, the space in there would perfectly fit an instrument.
It's like kryptonite. It burns.
Yeah. All right.
So there you go. Thanks for being a patron. Patreon.com/iFanboy. We can do
Rufus Pentecost is a 2000 AD villain name.
He could be. There's 2 emails we have. One email is longer to read, but I think shorter to answer, and one is short to read, but probably longer to answer.
Right, make your call.
Let's do. So, we got. I promised this. We got to do the second one because I promised the what hurts conversation.
Okay.
So the first the email, the only email we're doing, is from Drew G from Perth in Australia. Drew says, I'm rapidly approaching my 40s, and my only solace these days is that I get to listen to you two jamokes talk about similar struggles, just a little bit more advanced, thankfully. I feel like we haven't had a What Hurts update from you guys in a while. In lieu of this, currently my knee is sore after I thought I could lift my 2 age 7 and 2 heavyset boys. You didn't have to be mean about it. At the same time,
the great bloody giant boys have got here.
I love these boys. They are giant Australian boys. I love these boys with all my heart. So before we get into the email, does anything currently hurt, Josh? At this right moment?
You said this would be short. This could be kind of long. So I was in the car for many hours, and then I was on a plane for many hours, and I re-inflamed a performance syndrome I have, which is sort of like sciatica. And as a result of that, last weekend, I did the oldest man injury that anyone has ever done, was that I bent over like Izzy Mendelbaum, and I pulled a muscle in my lower back, and it's not horrible, but it's there. And when I stand up and sit down, and so like that's interesting because I know it and I think it every time, but honestly, it's never been a problem. I have never hurt myself like that.
Well, sure. That's what my doctor told me once when I was complaining that almost I went from really, really, really good shape to everything hurting all the time. He was like, yeah, that's eventually something's going to get you. You just won't know it.
I have a bad shoulder like that. I was in physical. It's been like a year.
Is it hurting right now? This very moment was hurting.
The two things I just talked about. If I move my arm right now, it will hurt.
Okay.
Like if I move it in the right place, it's okay. I got movement. And then finally, just today, I was touching my elbow over here, and then I went over to this one, and I've got like I've got the bursitis. I had this all swollen with like fluid at the bottom. I didn't do anything. I don't know why.
I had you can't see this. There's a little bit of a bruise still. I had a PRP treatment done on my elbow because I tore a tendon. PRP is when they take your blood, they put it in a centrifuge, they spin it, and they take out the platelets because it separates from the blood. And then they take the platelets and they shoot them back into where the injury is, and it's supposed to promote healing.
Is this in the back of a 7-Eleven?
It's not an FDA approved procedure.
There's shark blood involved.
So that hurt a lot, and it's been hurting. So that hurts. My wrist, right, at least my thumb hurts. That's
I hit a tree with my hand while I was skiing a month ago, and it still hurts like hell.
Right now, my shoulders don't really hurt. I've been going to PT for those. Those are getting better, and my forearm, which is all related to the injury, the tendon here gets really tight, and that hurts, and
I get
that can cause muscle knots, which are really painful.
Hmm.
So that's fun. Thanks for asking.
Let's continue with the email. I used to wonder, like, you'd hear about people who had like chronic pain, and you're like, man, it must suck.
Terrible.
And now you're just like, oh, you just get used to it because it's there.
My back is almost always hurting from my blown disc, but I get used to it. Let's move on to this email. He says, having recently changed jobs to spend more time with them and my wife, I guess he means the kids, I'm still struggling to find time for everything else in my life. My loving wife listened to my not so subtle hints and bought me a yearly subscription recently to Patreon, something I have wanted to do for many years but never done. I consider myself a moderate listener, and getting my own superpower live on air both excites and scares me in equal measure. So there you go, significant others. Bring some joy to your struggling spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend. Give them a membership. What scares me even more is how far behind I am in my comics. And while I've religiously listened to you guys, which has helped in some pretty dark times, comics as a whole have taken quite the backstep in my life since kids and family life has ratcheted up. Sans creating a podcast, what strategies have you found useful for keeping comics so high in your priorities? I've been thinking about this question for just under 28 hours since receiving my Patreon subscription for my birthday, which I hope will aid in reigniting my regular comic book engagement. Drew G from Perth, Western Australia. First of all, happy birthday. So what?
I remember being almost 40.
He's in his 40s, doesn't he say that?
He said he's almost 40. Rapidly approaching my 40s.
Oh.
Which by the way makes him an asshole. No.
Oh, he's rapidly approaching his 40s. He's like 10 years younger. Okay, so we've answered this question many times in the past, but it is a question that we get more now that the segment of the listenership is aging along with us. Mm-hmm. I think the last time I saw demographics, our most popular demographic was 33 to 45. So it's an issue.
People who are, busy, a lot of times will have kids. Just there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's harder to find time for the things that are just you.
I don't know that we can exactly answer this particular question in the way you've written it because you have to create a podcast. That's why I would still be reading comics, maybe not to the same not extent, but maybe not to the same timeliness. But Josh and I got to record on Thursday, so I got to read them. So that's really what you have to do. But let's talk. If you think about other things in your life, like if you like movies or music or whatever, you just have to carve out a time. Which doesn't. Also, another thing I'm going to say is you don't necessarily have to.
I've fallen.
It's okay to not. It's okay to not. If you don't have time, some things are more important than hobbies, and if you don't have time for them right now, you've got a 2-year-old. Maybe you come back in a couple of years when their kids are older and you've got more time. But Josh, what do you think?
I mean, it's hard. I mean,
I'm saying don't feel bad about it if you don't have the time.
No, I mean, I think that there's a certain level of acceptance of you're gonna have to let some things go because there's only so much time unless you stay up way too late every night and you get these bags under your eyes.
Are you still doing that, playing video games?
No, I haven't really since the pandemic. I haven't really played many games, because I did it a lot for a while. But it's not that. It's just whatever. I mean, you make choices and you try to find what you can, and I don't know what you're like. I don't know if you're depressive. I don't know if you're, like letting the reason that you can't do that. But you like, there's just got to be a lot of acceptance. And what I'm telling you right now is not how to find time for comics, but it's how I have been okay with not having time to do things that I love.
But you do make time, like you said, you've been learning drums. You were.
Oh yeah.
So
no,
you need something for yourself.
Oh, you absolutely do, and you need
to carve the time out. You got to prioritize. You have to prioritize your wife and your kids, obviously, and you got to prioritize your job and all those things. But you have to make some time for you, and you got to decide what that's going to be. It could be comics, it could be learning the drums, it could be all kinds of things.
And it has to be like a conversation with your partner, like they have to sort of understand where you're coming from. You have to make allowances for them, and provided everything's healthy, then everybody will understand that. Like, it is important to not make your life entirely about somebody else. It doesn't make you selfish, but you need something. Every lifestyle influencer on Instagram says some version of that, but it is actually true. However, here's what I will tell you about comics specifically. What would I be doing if I wasn't doing this show? I don't even know how to answer that. I had no way to answer that.
2025. It's been 25 years. We have no idea what.
But what I can tell you is that because we've had to do this, I have generated a love of the art form in a different way than I ever would have. And so, like, if we were to stop now, I would keep reading comics, not weekly. I wouldn't do that, but I will never not love the art form. And because I've had to learn so much about it, because we have to talk about it. And the more you do it, the more I've appreciated it. And the more that I find it beautiful and brilliant. So I don't read a lot of comics on my own. I don't really have time to read very much in general, but I've been reading my Usagi Yojimbo comics like clockwork because they're just perfect. They're
just been reading G.I. Joe.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been reading. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't get. I'm through 2 of the compendiums. I am going, and the thing. I'm not even slowing down.
But you carved out a time because it's important to you to read these back issues that have nothing to do with what we're doing on the show every week.
Say a thing. If you want to keep up with your comics, I will tell you that the sort of strategy that I use to get through the comics that I have to read for this is instead of that chunk of time where you're just like, I'm gonna tuck in and read I do here and there. I get, I read an issue with lunch. I'll have 5 minutes between a meeting. I'll knock a book out, there. I just sort of strategically place them within my day where I can sort of do a bit at a time. And,
it
works.
This is all hypothetical because like Josh just said, I have no idea what I just don't know. We've been doing this show for 20 years and iFanboy for 25, and I've been reading comics since I was 4. But if I wasn't doing the show, I would think that I would read a lot fewer books.
Yes.
And so maybe comic fans tend to have that FOMO of I got to keep up with this character that I love. And I have the same thing. I'm not pretending like I'm above all that. But maybe just pick out 3 or 4 books that you really, really like, all of it. You like everything about it, and just read those, and don't have to feel like you need to read all the characters that you like, because you can always come in and out. And we hear all the time from people who listen to this show saying, "I don't read anymore," but you're how I keep up on what's happening. And so use our show, other shows to keep up with the ones that are oh, I want to know what Superman's doing, but I don't love the book. So, maybe pick 5 books that you really like and just read those. And then if you find you got a little more time, then add one. But
one way to make it a little easier on yourself is I don't know if you part of your thing is going to a comic shop and buying or whatever, but you have a tablet and you can pick and choose the comics you want to read when you do, or get one of the subscriptions to the services, the Marvel or the DC ones or whatever. True. And, just
get unlimited access.
And they're right there.
And they'll always be there for you when you have time again. Right, and that's the thing. The comics will always be here. You can dip in and out.
You do have to this is what Connor says. You do have to let go of the idea that you're gonna not miss anything. There's just too many. You couldn't keep up. The cost alone.
Right.
Those kids aren't going to college if you're going to keep up with everything at this point. I think issues are $14 a piece now. I think.
Just wait. The tariffs haven't kicked in yet. So there you go, Drew. Hopefully there's a couple of ideas in there, but mostly it's just don't feel bad if you don't have the time. You can always come back to comics. Comics will always be there waiting for you, although maybe not. Who knows? And also find something for you. Make sure you have something that you are enjoying that's just for you, not for everyone else, because everyone needs that in their life. Thanks for writing in. Contact@ifanboy.com is how Drew did it. And we appreciate everyone who writes in. Thank you very much. Let's do some quick plugs. We didn't plug something in the Patron Pick show, so we got to plug it. We'll plug it now. So in a week or so, we'll have our Media Splode. Maybe 2 weeks. I didn't really do the math on the calendar. The next special edition show will be our Media Splode. We'll be looking at the first season of The Pit. So whenever The Pit ends, which is in as we record this, next week's the finale. So the week after next week, so 2 weeks, you'll have the Media Splode looking at the first season of The Pit, as well as all the other stuff we do on that show. And then sometime later in the month, we're going to have our Talksplode show, where Josh will be interviewing somebody. Yet we don't know who that is, or just maybe Josh does.
I have some ideas, and I just looked at the date, and I was like, shit.
But next month, which is May, Jesus, in May, our Booksplode month, we're going to be reviewing Judge Dredd: A Better World. We decided we decided this before you guys made it the Patron Pick. We've had this has been on our list for 2 weeks or so. So it's an interesting coincidence. We decided we'd announce it now. We're going to be reading Judge Dredd: A Better World, which is an original graphic novel that came out in February in the United States.
Yeah.
I think that's when it came out.
Yep.
Written by Rob Williams and Arthur Wyatt, with art by Henry Flint, Boo Cook, and Jake Lynch. Man, that might be a typo. I don't think it's Lynch.
It's Lynch.
Right. There's no U in that name.
Nope.
So that's coming. That'll be coming in May. So if you want to read along with this, Judge Dredd: A Better World.
But this would be not the first Judge Dredd we ever read, obviously, but a complete Judge Dredd story. I can't remember the last time I did that, if ever.
I feel like there's one, but it's been so long.
Yeah.
And then also non-comics related, you'll find a link in the show notes, but Josh recently appeared on movie of the year 1996 Fargo, the movie podcast game show that I've appeared on several times. This is Josh's first appearance discussing the Coen Brothers classic Fargo. I'm halfway through listening to it right now. I'm really enjoying it. Josh, you're doing a very good job.
It was fun. They when I go on other shows, I'm like, you really produce this. Like, we just have a little thing and then we wing it, but like you had to really work on this.
It was good. I'm enjoying it. It's a fun show. It's a discussion / game show, and it's a great movie to discuss. You probably didn't. I mean, I haven't finished it, but you probably didn't discuss the fact that he used to live in the Oakwood apartments, right? Herv.
I did actually.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. I told the Harv Presnell story. How do you not tell the Harv Presnell story?
I was just waiting for I was like, I wonder if he tells the Harv Presnell story.
Oh, it's coming. I was trying to figure out where to. There's a point. I fit it in. I'm a good broadcaster.
Good, excellent. I was hoping. That's the one.
Quiet down there.
Jesus Christ! Used to live in the apartment complex we lived in college, and we used to yell at us being loud. Anyway, movie of the year 1996. You'll find the link in the show notes. Check it out. They're fun.
You can find our library of a whole lot of shows. Four figures worth of shows,
right.
Audio, video, the whole deal over at ifanboy.com. Wherever podcasts are sold, you don't ever have to miss a show. You can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out by following us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and Threads, ifanboy.com on Blue Sky, and then Connor and I are CS Kilpatrick and J.A. Flanagan on Instagram, and theoretically Threads, which I don't use.
You are on Threads. I never activated my Threads, but you did.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You've not posted anything on it, but it is there. Please consider writing us a review or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Pocket Cast, you need to be subscribed. You need to have downloaded a few episodes before they let you rate it. But once they do, go nuts. Subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy, where you can watch this show right now. You may be doing it right now, as well as our special edition shows. All the shows there, except for the Talksplodes, are up on YouTube. I think on the race to 5,000, we are less than 100 away. I think we're at 90. You need 90 of you to subscribe. So there's way more than 90 of you listening. So please, if you're listening and you have a YouTube account, please consider subscribing.
iFanboy. There's way more than 90 people listening.
There's way more than 90. There are dozens of you.
Dozens.
And finally, join us on the iFanboy After Show exclusively on Patreon, where we'll discuss and share our thoughts on all the other books we read this week that didn't make the rundown. That's at patreon.com/ifanboy for everyone at the $10 a month tier and up. It'll be much shorter this week than last week's show. Woo, last week we kind of broke down. I started singing on last week's show. Anyway, Thanks for listening, guys. And my name is Connor.
I'm Josh.
See you next week.
Keep it topside up.